Okay. Now everyone mute yourself. I'm recording. So in the third unit, issue of shares and debentures underwriting, these are A bit ma. You are going to get as a bit A question, and bonus shares is a bit B question. Alma. So now what is this? Remember this total problem, whatever you are going to do in these problems, it's not like you are going to solve it something and you are going to find some profit. Ma. It is easy chapter if you understand. But if you are not interested, then it's really tough. Defreezer. So now
Provam.
partnership వరకు ఏదైతే నేర్చుకున్నారు, if you people are not going to mute yourself, I'm going to mute it. I said I'm recording, so I don't want any disturbances. Now see here. So company accounts, he is being divided into three parts, and all the three parts is going to talk about the company's capital part only. Here we have entered into the different kind of accounting. Until now, whatever you people were learning was purely financial accounting and the basic of financial accounting. Ma'am. So partnership, where we have got end with a partnership, till there the basic part has been completed. Now from now onwards, whatever you're going to learn, you are going to learn the actual financial accounting, the basic main part of the financial accounting. So in this one, the basic main part of the financial accounting, you are going to learn about what is mean by capital. So here, whatever we are learning about the three bits, issue of shares, debentures, or a bonus shares, whatever are the part of a company's accounts, these three things are dealing with only the capital. Now, every company, you people have learned in the BOM that the company has to set up means they need to go for getting a capital by issuing the shares. So, this process here, which kind of a company, like usually you people even have learned that company means what? Company means what, ma? Even in our concepts, the first foremost concept will tell us that business entity concept. That means business itself is a company, business itself is an artificial person. That is what we learn it, no? So here, that is what here, as it is a voluntary like artificial person, and it is an association of voluntary people, so it is going to be always continuing process. Whether people who are part of this company will join, will leave, but the company remains constant. That is the reason we say one more concept. What is the one more concept? Going concern concept. So going concern concept means that business is always continuous without any breaks. It's always are going to continue. So this is the thing. Now here the company, when they are going to go with using these as a company, they need to go for the minimum two people can require, whereas maximum can be unlimited in public sector company. Whereas in the private sector company, the company should be limited only to the 200 members, not more than that, ma. So maximum in the private sector is 200 and maximum in the public sector is unlimited, we'll say. Whereas in this one, minimum is going to be 2 anywhere at the in the company. So here, now whoever I said 200 members of the shares, if I'm talking about a private organization, 200 members will be contributing. So in what form they will be contributing? They will be contributing in the form of a small bit of the total capital. What they are doing, going to do it in from the total amount of capital, their bit will be a small portion. So that is how we call it as a share capital. Means so many people have joined together. The capital is a main part of any business, ma. But here in this kind of company activity, the people will be giving their part of a share. So that's why we call it as a Share capital means it's a capital is formed with the small portions of the people who contributed in forming that particular capital. So here we have n number of different kinds of a companies we are having, ma. So first and foremost thing is it is usually a company which is going to go for issuing of a shares. The partnership or the sole proprietor will not go for issuing any kind of a shares. Endukante sole proprietor means he is the solo owner of the company. He is the only person who has to contribute to the company. He has to bear the liabilities, whatever the loss or the liabilities are there. His liability will be always unlimited because he is a whole and sole owner, so he has to bear the liability. Whereas in the partnership, how many partners are involved in the business, those many people are going to contribute the capital, and whatever the profit is being coming from the organization, that profit is going to be shared among those partners only. So you all have learned partnership is going to limit only to the 10 in the banking sector and 20 in the other sectors. So here what happens, this is the way there is a limitations, and because of its limitations, the liability in the partnership is also same unlimited, because in any situation if the company is facing any kind of a loss, the partners has to bear the loss. That is what we have seen in insolvent, no? If any partner is becoming insolvent, what the solvent partners are doing, they are bearing his loss. That is what a partnership, their liability becomes unlimited. Now comes the company's account. So company's account is the one wherein the company is going to be started in a broader concept, and it is going to come under the act of 1956. Latest act is Companies Act of 2013. Now the act we call it as 2013. So this act, whatever the organization which is registered under the Companies Act, they will be called as the company, joint stock company or a company. So here what happens, this joint stock company or a company, yeah. So this company amount capital, whatever is there, it will be contributed by a general people. So these kind, if it is like a public sector company, ma, their capital is contributed by some banking institutions and some private organizations. So government, public sector companies, whatever shares will be there, usually they will be purchased by the other organizations or the private organizations or a banking sector organizations. They will be investing. So here, every person's share together is formed as a total capital. That is the reason we call it as a share capital. So here there are a certain procedures, ma. Certain procedures will be there, wherein how to enter going to we are going to issue the shares. So that all we are going to learn it. But before that one, first we are going to see here what happens, as these kind of companies capital is being contributed by so many people. That is the reason the liability here will be always limited anamata. It will not be unlimited. The difference between these two things you should remember, the liability between partnership or a sole trader and the liability of a company, these two are going to have the difference in this one only. So there in the sole proprietor and the partnership, their liability is unlimited, whereas in the company it is always limited only to the amount of their contribution. Like for example, they have purchased the 200 shares and each value of share is 10 rupees. So 200 into 10 is how much? 2000. So only their liability is limited to 2000 only. Beyond that, there is no such compulsion that they have to pay the amount. So their amount is limited only to the amount of their contribution, not beyond that anywhere. So this is about these things. Now here we have so many kinds of different kinds of a companies. Usually like you're going to get it for bitwise answers also for internals. So that's the reason we'll go with a small kind of things. So first of foremost we are going to have is company limited by shares. So, according to the section 20, subsection of 22 of the Companies Act 2013, the companies limited by the shares means a company having liability its members limited to amount. That's what we have told. So this is a very common point. We are going to have it in everywhere. So that is about one thing. And here then is company limited by guarantees there. That is one new point in this. What is this new point is, just now I said 2000 is the amount we have to pay. So I will be liable only to the amount I am supposed to pay, that is 2000. But sometimes what happens, sometimes if the like members of the companies are very limited ma, so what they'll do is with the members they will take a guarantee. Like in any situation, if the company is actually going into the losses, or they require a more amount of funds, then you people are going to pay at least this much of contribution. Means the amount to 2000 aite, I may take a guarantee of up to 10,000 also. And that is what, and if any situation, in any situation, if company is really in need of finance it to run or to exist in the market, they need a fund ani annappudu, at that situation it can demand its members to contribute to the guaranteed amount. సో నేను షేర్స్ పర్చేస్ ఇన్ 2000 కానీ నేను గ్యారంటీ ఇచ్చింది ఎంతవరకు, 10,000 వరకి. సో, సిట్యుయేషన్ అలా వచ్చినప్పుడు నేను ఎంతవరకి కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేయాలి? 10,000 వరకి కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేయాలి అనమాట. సో, థట్ ఈస్ వాట్ గ్యారంటీ. సో, ఇది అన్నిటికి వర్తిస్తుందా అంటే నో మా. దిస్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఎ బిజినెస్ వాటెవర్ ఐయామ్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ఈస్ యూజువల్లీ ఆఫ్ నాట్ ఎ ప్రొడక్టివ్ బిజినెస్. నాన్ ప్రాఫిటబుల్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్ అంటాం కదా! ద పీపుల్ హూ ఆర్ రన్నింగ్ ఎ చారిటీ బిజినెస్, ద పీపుల్ హూ ఆర్ రన్నింగ్ ఎ సొసైటీ బిజినెస్ అంటాం చూడండి. అలాంటివి మాత్రమే ఇలాంటివి గ్యారంటీడ్ లైక్ లయబిలిటీ అనేది దే విల్ బి డిమాండింగ్. బికాస్ యూజువల్లీ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్, ద మెంబర్స్ విల్ బి వెరీ లిమిటెడ్ in that case. So that is the reason they have no choice, they have to ask their own partners anamata. So that is the reason these will be one kind of a things. And here we have a foreign company, we have a government company. Government company, I need not tell you, government company is nothing but the company's shares. The company shares, actually they are having around 51% of its shares are held with the government అనుకోండి, then obviously it is said as a government company only. Default it is said to be as a government company, and the decisions everything will be taken by the government only. The important decisions, the implementations, everything is taken by the government itself. And foreign company is nothing but here whatever the company main like they have registered their business in their own home country, and they are having a business here, they're doing a business here. So such kind of a company we are going to call it as a foreign company. Means they have been registered as a company in their own country, not in our country. Only the thing is they are having a setting up their branch here and they are continuing as a business. So such kind of a business we call it as a foreign companies. Here we have then statutory companies will be there. Apart from government companies, there will be statutory companies ma. So government companies అంటే ఏమన్నాను, they 51% of shares అనేవి it will not be issued to the public, it is actually issued to the it is actually taken by the government only, the government sectors only, they are going to hold it. సో అలాంటి వాటిని మనం గవర్నమెంట్ కంపెనీస్ అని అన్నాను. దెన్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద స్టాట్యుటరీ కంపెనీస్? స్టాట్యుటరీ కంపెనీస్ ఆర్ అపెక్స్ బాడీస్. సింపుల్గా చెప్పాలి అంటే అపెక్స్ బాడీస్ మీన్స్ దే హ్యావ్ బీన్ సెటప్ ఫర్ some kind of necessary and for what we call regulatory body లాగా వాళ్ళని మనం డెవలప్ చేయాలి అనుకున్నప్పుడు అలాంటి స్టాట్యుటరీ కంపెనీస్ని మనం సెటప్ చేస్తాం. సో ఇలాంటి ఏవైతే రెగ్యులేటరీ బాడీస్ అనేవి ఉంటాయేమో అవి యూజువల్గా దే విల్ సెటప్ బై పాసింగ్ అనే యాక్ట్ ఇన్ ద పార్లమెంట్. After all the members of the parliament are going to agree for it, then actually this company is going to start, it is going to set up actually. So what are the main examples ante, we have RBI. RBI is also like that only. First it went on to the bill and then they had
passed on, then they have set up a separate. So now it is RBI is going to control all the banks in our country. It is apex body antam. So and it is a regulatory body అని కూడా అంటాం. ఎందుకు? Because these RBI is going to make sure that it is going to see that in the market the too much of cash nor too less of cash both will not exist. A moderate, a medium, regular amount of cash should float in the market అనేది RBI ఒక responsibility. It is going to check it అన్నమాట. So that is what here it is about a apex bodies. And one more thing, we have NABARD అనేది రీజనల్ రూరల్ బ్యాంక్స్ కి ఆర్బీఐ టోటల్ ఓవరాల్ కంట్రీ బ్యాంక్స్ కి ఎట్లా ఇంపార్టెంట్, ఎస్పెషల్లీ కమర్షియల్ బ్యాంక్స్ కి ఎట్లా ఇంపార్టెంట్, నాబార్డ్ అనేది అలా రీజనల్ రూరల్ బ్యాంక్స్ కి అనేది అంత ఇంపార్టెంట్ అనమాట. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ వాట్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు హ్యావ్. దెన్ అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దట్ వీ హ్యావ్ ఎల్ఐసీస్ ఆల్సో. సో ఇలాంటివన్నీ అంటే దీస్ ఆర్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్, దే హ్యావ్ టు బి, ఆర్ ఎల్స్ we are going to have a problem. So ila, like SEBI is there, one more regulatory body is SEBI is there, stock exchange market. So these all are called as the regulatory bodies and statutory bodies antam. Ante compulsion, if they are there it's well and good, if they are not there then it is going to be problematic. So that is what so these all about things ma. Now I said we are going to go with ఇలాంటి కంపెనీస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఇవన్నీ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాము. ఓకే ఫైన్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈస్ ఫైన్. నా ఈ కంపెనీస్ అన్నిటినీ కూడా ఎలా, హౌ దే ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు యాక్చువల్లీ వర్క్ అవుట్, హౌ దే ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు గో ఫర్ గెటింగ్ ద work done, how they are going to issue the shares. So usually you people have learned in the BOM also, that is we are going to have the MOAs and AOAs. So memorandum of association, articles of association is sufficient for the what we call, whom we call private organization. Whereas public sector organizations lo ala kaadu. They require MOA, AOA and prospectus. These three things are important. Then only they can able to start it. And usually public sector organizations name అవుతుందంటే ma, it's a government itself will not directly start any company's production. They have to get a sufficient fund anamata. After they get a sufficient fund only, they are going to go for starting the starting the business. So that is the reason prospectors అనేది ఇష్యూ చేసిన తర్వాత then they will go for starting their actual production activity. But private organizations లో అలా కాదు నాన్న. ప్రైవేట్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్ లో ఏమవుతుందంటే ఆబ్వియస్లీ the private people, they will have their own some amount kada. So with their amount they can begin their business activity anamata. So that is the reason they are going to have it. Now whatever it is, the shares they are going to issue it to get the amount. Usually we are going to start in a huge basis, so we require a maximum amount. So we have popularly called as share capital, and this share capital is again divided as equity share capital, and one more thing we have is preference. So equity share capital and preference share capital, this is the part of a share. And then we have a debt ma. సో ఎప్పుడు ప్రతిసారి షేర్ ఓనర్సే కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేయాలా, డెట్ అనేది ఉండదా, అప్పు తీసుకురాలేమా? సో ఈ డెట్ లో మనకు వచ్చేది డిబెంచర్స్. So in this one we are going to have a debenture. So these are the two forms of getting a capital into the organization. So idi vachesi we call it as the owners, and this one it is like a creditors. వీళ్ళని ఏమంటాం, debenture holders ni manam creditors ani antam. So share capital, whatever the share capital is there, so the equity capital is one main category, and main category I should say it is main category because definitely they are going to issue this one. And shareholders, whoever are going to go for investing in the equity shareholders, they are called owners ma. Why they are called owners? Because they will be from the beginning of the company till the wind up of the company anamata. That is the reason those are called. Whereas preference shares are also part of a shares, but they will
invest in the company if they get certain preference. What kind of a preference? Ante they demand that we want every year compulsory this much of interest. Definitely we want this much of interest. And we want a part of profit always. A profit of percentage profit is also important. ఆ ఇయర్ లాస్ వచ్చినా కూడా నెక్స్ట్ ఇయర్ మళ్ళీ వాళ్ళకి ఇవ్వాల్సిందే మనం. సో అలాంటివి ప్రిఫరెన్సెస్ ఉంటాయి కాబట్టి దే విల్ బి. అండ్ ఈ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ షేర్ హోల్డర్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ పర్మనెంట్ మా. దే ఆర్ నాట్ పర్మనెంట్ షేర్ హోల్డర్స్. వాట్ హ్యాపన్స్ in no preference shares, if I am issuing a preference shares now అని అన్నప్పుడు డిపెండ్స్ అనమాట. నేను 5 yearsకి ఇష్యూ చేస్తానా 10 yearsకి ఇష్యూ చేస్తానా అనేది ఇట్స్ ఆల్ డిపెండ్స్ అపాన్ అ కంపెనీ. బట్ రిమెంబర్ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ షేర్స్ నెవర్ దే విల్ బి ఇష్యూడ్ బియాండ్ 20 years. అంటే 20 years దాటిన తర్వాత ఇంకా ప్రిఫరెన్స్ షేర్స్ ఉండవు కంపెనీలో. దే హ్యావ్ టు బి రిడీమ్డ్ అనమాట. వాళ్ళని మనం పంపించేయాల్సిందే అంతే. సో ప్రిఫరెన్స్ షేర్స్ హోల్డర్స్ దే ఆర్ నాట్ కాల్డ్ ఎ పర్మనెంట్ హోల్డర్స్. అందుకే వాళ్ళకి ఓటింగ్ రైట్ అనేది ఉండదు. అదే ఈక్విటీ షేర్ హోల్డర్స్ వాళ్ళకైతే ఓటింగ్ రైట్ అనేది ఇస్తాం మనం. బికాస్ దే ఆర్ ద పీపుల్ హూ డస్ నాట్ డిమాండ్ ఎనీ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ compulsion in profit, compulsion in dividend. That is the reason they are called actual owners and they have a voting right. Whereas these people will demand, they will contribute the amount by demanding some amount. That is the reason here we are not going to give them the voting right anamata, until and unless it is specifically mentioned because of some reason antene the voting right is some. But it's very 1% chance anamata. And this is one kind of a debt. So usually what happens, we have a shares is usually been purchased by a small sole proprietor business, partnership business లాంటి వాళ్ళు ఇలాంటి వాటిలో ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేస్తారు. బట్ కంపెనీ వాంట్స్ టు పర్చేస్ a huge heavy investmented machineries ma. So in such case what happens, for them they need a huge amount. We already have discussed that usually never they are going to go for investing their amount always in the business. They will always get a loan. ఎందుకు అంటే సడన్ గా బిజినెస్ రన్ అవ్వలేదు అనుకోండి, అప్పుడు నా దగ్గర దాచిపెట్టుకున్న అమౌంట్ అనేది ఇట్ విల్ హెల్ప్ మీ టు రీపే ద లోన్. నేను ముందుగానే నా దగ్గర ఉన్న అమౌంట్ అంతా నేను యూజ్ చేసేసాను అనుకో, సడన్ గా నా బిజినెస్ లాస్ అయితే ఆ అప్పు తీర్చడానికి నాకు ఎవరిస్తాడు? నువ్వు ఆల్రెడీ అప్పుల పైన అయినావు, నీకు నేను ఎందుకు లోన్ ఇస్తానని బ్యాంకర్ అంటాడా లేదా? సో దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ usually what happens, the big companies, though they have a sufficient money ma, they will not invest in purchasing the heavy machineries or heavy investments in their companies. What they'll do is they'll take a loan. So either they'll go with taking with from the bank, or they will take loan in the form of debentures. ఇప్పుడు బ్యాంకర్ దగ్గర అనుకో నాకు ఒక లిమిటేషన్ ఉంటుంది, ఇంత మాత్రమే ఇస్తాను అంటాడు. అదే డిబెంచర్స్ ఇష్యూ చేశాను అనుకో, ఈ డిబెంచర్స్ అనేవి ఎవరు పర్చేస్ చేస్తారు? యూజువల్గా స్మాల్ బ్యాంక్స్ కానీ లేదా స్మాల్ బిజినెసెస్ కానీ ఇలాంటి వాళ్ళు కొంటారనమాట. సో వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారు, కొంత 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 అమౌంట్ నాకు బ్యాంకర్ ఇచ్చేదానికంటే ఇంకా ఎక్కువ వస్తుంది అమౌంట్ నాకు. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ we always prefer that going with the debentures is very preferable. సో షేర్స్ అనేవి ఎలా బిట్స్ వైజ్ ఇష్యూ చేస్తామో, డిబెంచర్స్ ని కూడా అలాగే బిట్ వైజ్ we are going to issue and we are going to gather the amount. So this is all about these things ma. So I think the class is going to end. So tomorrow I'm going to continue with the same thing, how the equity share capital are to be presented, in what manner, like what is mean by authorized capital, what is mean by issued capital, subscribed capital, all these things I'm going to tell you clearly. And as well as tomorrow we are going to discuss about journal entries. Remember, in this chapter, everyone remember, in this chapter you are going to have